All right, next up in our series of page layout with Canva is going to be an assignment about using text. I'm just going to use pretty much nothing but text on this one. So we're going to use Canva to create a blank page and then fill it with text items that describe things you like. And when I say describe, I mean just name things you like. I'll show you. Required today, an 8.5 by 11 inch page that is blank at the beginning. You start with a blank page and build from there. At least 10 things you like, and they can be anything. They could be foods or TV shows or movies or books or colors or whatever you can think of that you like. At least 10 things that you like. Fill up the page, use some big, some small, whatever you got to do. Show some planning in arranging the text items. You'll notice that this is really very similar in the idea to the previous assignment. Here's the scoring, how it works today. Having at least 10 text items gets you 30 points, and arrangement, thinking through your arrangement and getting them neatly on the page, 10 points for that. Fill the page, show some planning in the way you put it together. All the rest of it is a lot like yesterday. Getting started, you'll get to Canva and create a blank page for yourself. And then I'm going to show you some things about text as we work through this. All right, so let's hop over here and let's look at one that's already done. In this demo movie, I am not going to do the entire thing. I'm going to give you the ideas of, okay, how do you do this and get you started, and then off you go. But this is one I've already done. This one's complete. It's one page. I think I have about 12 or 13 items on here. So you can, in this one, on the images assignment that came previously, you had to have exactly 7 images. Not necessarily true here. You can have more than 10 if you want, but you have to have at least 10 to get full credit. And so you think of things you like. And I've got all kinds of stuff on there. I've got sports things on there, and you see coffee on there, and you see Albanese gummy bears and jigsaw puzzles, and The Expanse and Big Bang Theory are things that are on TV that I enjoy watching. And there's sleep and pie and cycling. It's hobbies and just things that you like. That's what we're going to try to do. All right, so I'm going to switch over here to the home page of Canva and just kind of walk through at least getting it going and getting you started. So I'm going to come up here to the top right and go custom size, and it's not really that fancy of a size, but I'm going to click custom size, and I do want today an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper, right? And you can switch that just like yesterday. This could be 11 over here, and this could be 8.5 over here if you want to do it that way. It's okay with me. Make sure it's inches, not pixels. We don't want pixels. But I'm going to stick with 8.5 by 11, and I'll create new design, and that's going to give me a blank page, and that's how I want you to begin. Page layout for me in my class is starting with a blank page and then putting everything on there. It's not that there's anything wrong with templates, but this is the way we're going to do it. All right, next up, I'm going to hop to backgrounds here, and I'm just going to use a color this time. You could use whatever you want off of the backgrounds, and you wouldn't even have to change your background if you don't want to. But I'm just going to use a color. I'll just go to the color palette here. And this is showing me some default colors. And there's some that I really kind of don't mind here, like this kind of turquoisey or this, what is this, aqua blue. I kind of like that aqua blue right there. So I'll just click that. And I'm going to use that as my background color. All right, cool. So let's go. So the thing that we're going to work with today on the left-hand side over here is text. They have a whole bunch of kind of preset styles over here that if you click it, like this one says rodeo, and so you don't have to leave it that way unless you like rodeos. But if you double click on that, it'll get you into editing mode, and then you can make that say whatever you want it to say, and it will have that font and that style and all that kind of thing. So you could use those if you want to. For most of mine, I just use this up at the top where it says add a heading. But I'm not against you using these. If you like the style kinds of things that you see, you would just click on it, and then you would get in there and change what it says, right? You would just get in there and change the wording and change whatever you need to change about it and make it work for you. All right. I'm going to get rid of, all right. But I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to say add a heading. And let's say that one of the first things that I want to put on here is IndyCar Racing. When you're working with type, you have to decide, do you want your caps lock on or not? Do you like all capital letters? Do you like a mix of capital and small? That's a decision that you have to make. All right, I'm going to say IndyCar Racing, and I'm doing all caps. Next up, just going to make sure that's selected. That whole box there is selected. And I'm going to go up here kind of to the top left. And I'm going to look at some fonts here. All right, so there's a ton. There's a whole bunch here. And you may have to watch. I don't know how yours will work. I don't know if it says Pro, it may not work when you try to download it. So be a little bit careful about that. Just find things that'll work. And I can help you with that. If you have questions about it, you can contact me and I can help you out with that. All right, so let's come along here and let's say I want this one called Mokoto. Boom. All right, that looks pretty cool. I can play with sizes here. Right now it's size 62. I could click that list and there's a preset list of sizes, or I could bump it up or down or whatever I want. I think I'll make it like 72 or so. I'm going to stretch this out some, and I'm planning on turning this. So I'm going to use this rotation handle that's at the bottom of this, and I'm going to turn it by 90 degrees. I'm watching that little readout there that's on the screen, and I want to get it. All right, now I'm going to have to take it down in size some because it's a little too big. All right, that's looking better. There's a button here for centering. You can center or left or right justify and those kinds of things. I'm going to grab that and move it over here because I kind of want the IndyCar Racing thing to lay like right up the side like that. You can also change the color of the font. There's a little button here for text color. And you can, there's a default set of colors that are available, or this little add new color button right here gives you a color picker. So if there's some kind of color that you feel like you want, you can certainly get in there and find it. And bingo. All right. Cool. So I've got that item on there. So now we would proceed on to some other item, right? I also happen to like jigsaw puzzles a lot. I love doing jigsaw puzzles. So I'm going to say add a heading. I'm going to say jigsaw puzzles. And this is where you have to kind of make a decision about some things here. You can use the same font over and over. If I decided, you know what, I really love that font, that Mokoto font. So you could use the same font over and over if you want to. You can even use the same color for the whole thing. If that's what you feel like looks good, that's okay with me. That's not a problem. But you certainly are welcome to use a variety of fonts. Maybe I'll change up the font this time, and maybe I'll change up the color this time. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'll take it down to like 48 or so. And I'm going to stretch this. I kind of want it to be just in one line. So I'm going to stretch that bar out there and just kind of pull it down here. Still going to have to get smaller. It's not quite fitting on the page. So I'll bump that down a little bit until I get it fitting on the page the way I want. That's starting to look a little bit better. Get it laying in there the way I want it to lay. All right. Now, here's something else that you can do, and it's up to you. There's a button up here on the toolbar that says Animate. Please don't do that on this assignment. I'm not really after anything that's animated on this assignment. Let's stay away from that. I'm just looking for a text layout that is not animated. So let's not do Animate. But there are some effects that you can add if you would like. So I'm going to click on effects, and there's not a ton of them. But if you like them and they'll help you, you can certainly work with them. You see them over here on the left-hand side. There's things like shadow and splice and neon, and I'm not going to show all of them to you. You can play around with them. I'll add a shadow on this. So I'll click on shadow, and then I'm going to do some things like I'll play with the shadow color, make the shadow black. I'm going to give it a little more offset than what it has right now, and I might bring up its transparency a little bit to make it a little bit darker. And if we peek down there where it says jigsaw puzzles, I'm getting a shadow that's falling down behind little more offset for me. I'm getting a shadow that's falling down behind the letters, and I kind of like the look of that. So there's a limited number of things that are available on the effects menu right up here, and you are welcome to use those if you would like. All right, so that's done. I'll go back over here to text, and I'll kind of move on to the next thing. And really, I'm not going to show you too much more here because there isn't that much more that you have to know to be able to do this. Again, you're welcome to use these kind of preset style things over here on the left if you want, but I'm just going to continue with add a heading, boom, and it just puts a text box on there. And then I like to bake, I like to do homemade bread. And I'm going to make this one, I'm going to type baking, and then I'm going to type bread. I pressed enter in there because I kind of want this one to be like two lines, right? And you can do that if you want to. It totally works, right? So I'll take this up here toward the top, and I'm going to drop it in right about there. And I think I'm going to play with a font here. I'll change that font up some, and I'm going to change the color up a little bit here. Give that kind of a, I'm going to give that kind of a brown, because bread, kind of like the bread crust gets kind of brown when you break it. All right, cool. That's looking pretty good. Stretch that out just a smidge, and I can arrange that the way I want. So I've got that feature in there. All right, and then I would just kind of continue building and building and building. Now I do want to show you a little trick. I like to cycle. Okay. Now, if you're feeling like, well, I wish I could spread those letters out a little bit and make it stretch out, horizontally left and right. Here's a trick you could use if you want to. I could click in there and put a space in between each letter. Looky there. A lot of text editing programs have other ways you can do that. Canva does not really have a way that you can do that that I have found anyway, except for just clicking in there and putting some space in it. All right, so I kind of like the way that looks a little bit better. I like the extra spacing that I got going on there. And again, there's just a ton of, now that I changed the font, it's a little big, so I'm going to have to take that down a little bit. And, I can play around with moving it, getting it sitting right where I want it to be, and I could work on the color. And if I want to add an effect, I kind of like that shadow thing that I had going on there. I like a black shadow, and I'm going to throw some offset on it and bring the transparency up. And I kind of like a shadow effect, as you can see, but that's up to you. So you can see this starting to come together, right? I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4 items on here, and I would just have to keep crunching away and just keep working on it and put more and more and more text items on until at least I have at least 10. And I pretty much fill up the page. That's another one of the goals of a lot of forms, a lot of different things that you do with page layout. You're trying to use the space that you have available and kind of fill it up. And eventually you'll get to where, this is the one that I did previously before I started this movie. So eventually you'll get to where you've got everything put together the way you want. You've got all your items on there. You can use a variety of fonts, variety of colors, or if you prefer, you can use the same font, same colors. It's up to you. And you kind of fill that page up, all with things you like, things that you enjoy. And when you get it all done, I would suggest that you come up here in the top right-hand side where, like, for example, over here, the first thing I typed on this one, on the one I was working on in the movie, said IndyCar Racing, so I might change that. I might come over here and say, like, text demo. There we go. And then download it, right? When it's time, and I'm going to switch back over to my one that's done, I would come over here to the download button. Click download. This is just like we did on the first assignment. And it's suggesting a PNG version, which is totally fine. And you would click download here. If you're working on your Chromebook, it would go into your files folder, or it would go to your Google Drive. Mine went to my downloads folder. And then I would go to Classroom and turn it in. And, I think pretty much everybody did that successfully on the first assignment, so that really hasn't changed any. All right, There you go. That's what we're working on today. It's a whole page of text things. It's just stuff you like. That's what you're putting on there. Just stuff you enjoy, stuff you like. Let's go. Go, go, go.